Trauma is especially traumatizing. It's especially catalyzing of protection so that that same trauma doesn't happen again. So the ensuing free-floating thoughts that could be deceiving because thoughts you don't typically hear, thoughts directly related that are directly protecting you from that trauma happening again and that severity that I just reflected in my face and eyes. But they're more 5-7 layers up from for example, if I was abused as a child, whenever I walked into a dark room, if it was a well-lit room, I was never abused there. So let's say in the house that you grew up in, if you were abused as a child, the well-lit room was the front room and there were windows in there. So the abuse didn't occur there so that the neighbors wouldn't see it. But whenever you went into that back living room or reception room or playroom or basement, it was dark and that was where the abuse happened. So you have some kind of free-floating thought that you don't hear that associates dark rooms with abuse, and that in order to keep you safe and protected, you don't go into dark rooms. You don't know that that's necessarily, I mean, this is an overly simplified example. So right now, honestly, in the space I'm in, I don't have at the top of my disposal an example of a trauma, even though I've dealt with so many different types of trauma. And it takes a while to not only see, traumas want to stay buried until you have enough fresh consciousness cleared above that trauma, blocks above the trauma. So if you were abused and it wasn't sexual, you might not trust people, right? So you might be a hermit or you might not go out a lot, right? So here's some of the additional layers. When I can get to them and clear the additional layers, the trauma starts to poke itself like a seed sprouting its sunflower above the soil. It starts to be able to open and begin to get the fresh light to it and the clearing to it so that the trauma does eventually lift.